How did you get into astrology?
Divorce. I was going through the breakup of my first marriage. It was a painful and difficult time for me. And I was at a party where an amateur astrologer did my chart. And although I don't remember one thing that he told me about my chart, I was fascinated by the system. I've always been interested in psychology. It was a period in the early 70s when What's My Sign was beginning to make sense to me. I had a need, I had a desire. Since I was in crisis in my life, astrology came along and started answering a lot of questions for me.
What is your focus in astrology? You know, we got evolutionary astrology, we got Hellenistic astrology, we got Vedic astrology. What kind of astrologer are you?
Well, I've always called myself a general practitioner as far as astrology goes. If anything, I would probably the most accurate description would be a humanistic astrologer. Certainly I've done some training under Alexander Ruperti and was inspired by Dean Rujar's work when I began studying astrology, and that's what interests me the most, how we as human beings can fulfill our potential. I think we're definitely a work in progress, have an enormous amount to learn about the potential of who we are and what we can do, and that's probably the angle of astrology that interests me most.
How has astrology impacted your life, not only as a career, but personally?
Well, astrology has impacted my life in every way. I mean, it would be hard to self-identify without all of the reference points astrology has supplied me with over the years. It has certainly contributed to untying significant emotional or psychological knots. It's brought me a world of friends, a worldwide community of fellow astrologers who I've known for decades. And actually I met my wife through astrology. She's not a practicing astrologer, but she's well trained and educated, and we met in the Réseau, or Network for Humanistic Astrology, in Paris. In fact, my daughter was at a Rob Hand lecture when she was 3 weeks old.
Oh, that's like I was at the blast and Moses Sirigar had his 3-month-old kid there, yeah?
Oh, they're too old. At that point, they're too old to learn anything.
30, 90 degrees into the progression.
You have to get them in the first, that's right. That's right.
What fascinates you about astrology, and how would you convey that fascination to the average person on the street?
Well, there are several things that fascinate me about astrology. One, obviously, is the fact that it connects our individual human experiences, which feel normally so disconnected, to cycles of the Earth, cycles of the solar system. So there's this sense of belonging to something larger than ourselves, which I think is one of the healing factors of astrology. Additionally, it is the clearest, most concise, and yet most well-developed system of personality analysis that human beings have ever created. I mean, it's a 12-fold typology with an overlapping of elements and modes that makes total sense and tells a beautiful, elaborate, but comprehensible story that no other personality typology has touched.